Good morning, everyone, and happy Saturday. How's everyone doing this morning?
Good
Super
morning,
duper.
Blues Brothers.
Happy Saturday.
All
Love
right.
love the
Well, usually,
sunglasses.
yes. Well, usually, it's only Carol and you folks in Florida that are donning the sunglasses, but I'm broadcasting here from Richmond, Virginia. Emily and I are on our way from Michigan to the Outer Banks, so I'm inside a hotel room, but throwing the shades on nonetheless, and we're going to hit the road here after our wonderful session. For those that are joining us for the first time, this is our what we call our walk and talk, or Voices of HealthPointe. It's just a community of like-minded people that are crazy enough to get together at 8 a.m. Saturday morning. That's 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for those of you that might think about joining from the West Coast or something crazy like that. But for those that don't catch us live, this does get uploaded onto the YouTube channel called Voices of HealthPointe. So you can always catch us asynchronously there. So we're going to jump right into things. And again, the format for those that are new is, we typically have a couple of docket items that we'll kind of handle in the beginning here. And then we kind of get into round robin discussion. We wrap it up in about, roughly an hour's time. So I'm going to have a docket item that's going to be on the topic of, I'm calling it OTR OBX. Okay, so that is on the road to the Outer Banks. And so, and I'm going to just have some fun and do some screen share with some images here. And then we're going to also have Carol that's going to do a segment on HealthPointe is not a club, it's a community. HealthPointe is not a club, it's a community. And Carol, actually, if you're interested, because I've got a different setting here this morning, I might step out in a minute. Do you want to go ahead and get started with your section, or did I? Are you ready to be queued up? I guess is what I'm asking.
I'm always ready. I'm trying to find a little bit of a shady spot here so that I can do a better job. But yes. Okay. Well, I think I'm on. Well, anyway, I'd like to welcome everybody to our community HealthPointe. And it's a beautiful day here in Florida. And I know we've got people that are traveling to, are in Gatlinburg. There's people that are heading to the Outer Banks, as you'll hear a little later. And so we got people all over the place. We got people from Michigan, people from Texas, and you name it. But I'm going to catch my breath here for just a minute. I just wanted to just share for a few minutes. And I think this would probably be more directed, not so much to the new people, but I do think it also is directed to new people, because I really want to help people understand, all of us understand, whether we're coaches, whether we're brand new and we're just coming in the first time, what our walk and talk is all about, and what the HealthPointe program is all about. Our Monday night lean team that we do every Monday. All of that fits into a big picture, and that is a picture of a community. It's a community of like-minded people that want to be healthy, want to add healthy years onto the end of their life so that they have health span rather than just lifespan, and teach and learn, and then teach to others and pay it forward. Simple steps, very simple, obvious steps that most people don't follow. And that is of supplementation, of hydration, of mental detoxing, of physical habit forming, of filling in the gaps of your nutrition, rearranging maybe some of the things you're eating now, eating more, some of you eating less. It's just a very simple habit forming community. And then as we form those habits, I think the important thing to remember is that word, and it came from a movie, pay it forward. Especially for those of us that have been on HealthPointe for a long time and have reaped the benefits of it. Our bodies have been transformed. Our minds are continually being transformed, to be able to reach out to other people and say, you know what, I've discovered this beautiful lifestyle and I want to share it with you, because it's not only something that I think could help your situation, whatever the person's situation is, but I think you can also help other people in the same way. And so I think, especially these Saturday mornings, what we don't want it to be, it's okay. We want it to be too. We don't want it to be just a club. Sometimes a club is where people just settle in and they wait to be entertained, and then some people participate a little bit, some come in, some come out, and what have you. And they, after a while, treat it in a lackadaisical method. And I just want to say for Eric, he gets up very early, and now he's on the road in Richmond, Virginia right now. And I don't want to steal his thunder because he's going to probably talk about that. But wherever he is make sure that he is up and he's got everything lined up for us. He's paying that forward to us. And I think we as a community need to really be cognizant of the fact that we want to pay it forward to other people and really help them understand the value of two things that we have going for us. One, Monday night lean teams, and I think those are very valuable. Those that people have been participating, being spotlighted. We've been having different people touch on different topics. This topic this Monday night will be on our metabolic adjustment that we are going to be going into starting a week from Monday. So we want to get mentally prepared about what that's all about. And so those are really, really valuable, and we have people participate. On the other hand, your walk and talks on Saturday morning are a little more, what we say, off the cuff. Eric always comes with a great article or a great perspective. Sometimes I'll come in with an article or I'll feed off of his, and then many of us will join in, but it's much more off the cuff. But I think one of the things that we don't want it to be is just a thing where a small group of people come together every Saturday morning because they formed the habit to do that. That's great and that's wonderful. But I think it's important, excuse me, I think it's important for us to realize that there is a whole world of people out there that need our message. They need to have an ability to say that there is a way that they can transform themselves, get themselves out of maybe the unhealthy lifestyle that they're in, whether it be eating too much on lifestyle medications, just sloppy habits. In some cases, it might be teaching your family healthy habits at an early age so that we replicate and duplicate healthy lifestyles in our children, which I think is super, super important today. And so what I would say is be aware when you're out in the marketplace. I'll just give you 3 examples of things that we have in the hopper right now. And one of them was a lovely woman that I met probably a couple months ago. And because of, she's very, very fit, but very, very super interested in healthy habits. And she's very well read in it. And I've invited her as a potential into our community. And so here's a situation where she knows a lot of this stuff. She probably follows a lot of it, but she doesn't have a path or a program that she can extend to other people so that she's helping them become healthy. And so we're going to talk to her about that, or we are talking to her about that, and now going into our second meeting. Another one is a gentleman that I met actually a while back, and then I had no way of getting in touch with him. I didn't have the proper numbers, and then I established a friendship with him last Tuesday. And in the interim, because the reason I wanted to meet with him was that he had some pre-diabetic and diabetic situations that the doctor was knocking on his door. And so I said, I've got a program that I think you might be very interested in learning more about. And so we talked about that, but never were able to get back together. So when I met him Tuesday, he had lost 40 pounds in this interim of time. So we got talking, and come to find out he was on one of the semaglutide drugs, the shots in the stomach. And, he lost the weight, but now he's still got more weight to lose. And it really hasn't changed a lot of the situation that he's in. And so we've picked up our conversation, and he's given me his personal information. And now I'm going to show him how he can go from, you know, the semaglutide, Wegovy, Ozempic, all of those drugs, and how I can take him from that and move him into a community of people that are very healthy, whereby he can phase out of that expense, out of that drug input into the body, which who knows what that's going to lead to long term, and also into healthy habits. And then the third couple was a beautiful young couple I met just last Tuesday, and they're here only 7 days from into Sarasota from another state, and um, they help healthy lifestyle people to grow their business. Well, we've got a proven system since 1990 some, and even proven before that, before Network 21 took it over. So we're going to chat about that. I'm taking a look at their website, and I think we're going to be able to really help them to take the things that they know, enrich it with our materials, and help them to really grow a nice business in Sarasota or wherever else they end up their message going. So I just wanted to kind of bring that to the forefront of your mind, that there's people everywhere. If you're focused in, you're thinking about not only what you're doing for yourself, and even if you're brand new here, you're embarking on a transformation program mentally and physically that you can share with others, and they can take that journey right along with you. And it's always much, much more fun if you're on the program and maybe you've got a couple other people that are on the program with you. It's always a lot more fun that way. And then the last thing I just wanted to remind people, for those of you that are seasoned and that are coming to our conference in Atlanta, and for those of you that are still considering, I highly recommend it. And what they have is the Friday of the conference during the day, they have a training program called HealthPointe Intensives. And I've been privy to a lot of this material, as Eric has, and many of you that have already registered are privy to some of the material. I would say, please, please, please get into that material. It's very, very good. And you'll be able to really understand what I'm talking about, a true community rather than just a club. A community is where new people are always coming in, and it's always growing. And a club has a tendency to kind of be the same old, same old. And the community is new people coming in, where we're enriching and helping people every Saturday, every Monday. We're helping them to uncover their greatness and also reach out and pay it forward to other people. So for those of you that have your intensive program, boy, get into that and listen to it 2 or 3 times, because you'll get so much more out of the intensive training that will be in on that Saturday, that Friday. And for those of you that are kind of teetering and maybe haven't decided whether you want to join in on that coaching training program on a Friday of the conference, I highly recommend that you do register for it and get that information, start getting into it. So Eric, with that, I'm going to turn it back over to you, and I hope it didn't take too much of your time. Back at you.
No, yeah, that didn't take too much at all. In fact, prompted some questions, just some things that bounce around, and maybe some others have some things that they have some questions on as well. Such great content there. Gosh, I'll just start with one. This isn't necessarily in my priority or my thinking, but I think it was just kind of sequential. You mentioned about the gentleman with the GLP-1 drug and the 40 pounds. And I'm really interested in that. There was a conversation that I had some time ago. It might have been here on the Walk and Talk, about my bookkeeper. And the topic that it eventually evolved into is what I was phrasing Ozempic anxiety. Okay, Ozempic anxiety, meaning people are on this, this injection. It's quite costly. Maybe it's covered by insurance, but then ironically, when their BMI comes into a healthier state, then it's not covered. And so there was a level of anxiety of, I mean, for the moment, let's just disregard whether it's a healthy way to lose weight and what it's doing in terms of your protein and your lean muscle mass. Let's just set that off to the side for a minute. The anxiety can be about, gee, what am I going to do when I come off of this? I come off of this because I have to pay for it myself, and I don't, I can't afford it, or I don't want to spend that much money every month, or for whatever reason, or I just don't, I've been injecting myself for 3 years and I don't want to inject for the next decade, so I got to come off of it. And I term that Ozempic anxiety. And I'm curious, either just in general, your thoughts on that, Carol, or maybe, to the degree appropriate with this specific gentleman, about his mindset, his talk track, his anxiety, or his whatever, it being that he's somebody that is utilizing GLP-1 drug and then is in conversation with you about this. And here's a positive spin on that, is there's an off ramp. There can be a parallel ramp for people that did elect to do that. And what's this parallel path that they can get with coaching and HealthPointe, et cetera, and kind of an off ramp to come off of that. Can you speak a little bit more to that, Carol?
Well, well, HealthPointe is a lifestyle program. Excuse me, I'm dry. Ozempic is a drug. So Ozempic is a Band-Aid. HealthPointe is a lifestyle change, a transformation. And if there's one thing that I am really picking up on, probably close to 100 audios I've listened to now that are so amazing and so eye-opening, and we need to look at this program and take it to the next level. And that is to help people to understand that until you change mentally, your physical will be always a shot in the stomach, a diet here, a diet there. And until you address the mental toxicity, which we do in Network 21 and our audios and all of our material, unless we do that and we get involved in a community of like-minded people, we'll always be dieting for the rest of our life. And that's not good. So thank you, Eric, for bringing that up, because I overlooked that. I remembered you talking about your bookkeeper, and that is a great point to bring out to people. And the reason that it's really triggering now is that one of the HealthPointe intensives, that those of you that are registered for the program, one of the walk and talks, there's 4 walk and talks in there. One of them is a whole group led by all people that have been on either a lap band, a bariatric treatment, or we can say Ozempic, because they might not even have Ozempic, because this happens to be from Australia, or they maybe this is pre-Ozempic. So a lot of them did the lap band and the bariatric for a period of time there. And it's run by a gal, I think her name is Jen. And she did go on I think she did the bariatric or the lap band. She did the lap band, I think. And then she was going to do the bariatric, and it was going to cost her in the tune of $36,000, I think it was, from what I remember that she said. But anyway, thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. And she was all signed up for it. And then somebody showed her HealthPointe. And she realized that even now, even though she had the band, now the surgery she didn't have to go through. She could really address the situation, which is not what those other things do. Whether it be a shot in the stomach, whether it be a bariatric, they do not change your mental attitude about yourself, and they do not change your habits. And until you change those 2 things, you can have all the Band-Aids and shots you want and all the medications, and we got a world full of them, but we ultimately must address that. So I think part of it is having a conversation in that arena to help people understand that it is a mental change first, and that you have a community that will help you along the way. And I think any of you that are on Monday nights, any of you that are being personally coached, any of you that have been personally coached, you really understand the power of a mentor and the power of checking in with that community. For us, it's a couple of times a week, Saturday morning and Monday night. And so I think we have to help mentally prepare people first. And then our program is a habit forming program. And we can explain to them that, look, if you're still on, the eating program and you want to get off because of the very great points that Eric just brought out, let's uncover a program here where we can segue from one thing to another and gradually get you off of the drugs or the surgery, the very expensive surgery, and we can get you into a transformation program. And I love the word transformation, because when we help a person understand that this isn't about a diet, this is a transformation that really is more importantly mental, because so many people that are extremely overweight, I heard of another gal that put somebody on that has 300 pounds to lose. Now that person, if they have 300 pounds to lose, probably has some frustrations, mental discomforts within themselves, unhappy with themselves. Those things need to be addressed. It's just not about, okay, I'm going to get up in the morning and I'm going to take my steps, that's all part of it, but it's the mental thing. So I think that's where we need to start, Eric, and then we can move into explaining how that HealthPointe program can segue into what you're doing now, so we can gradually get you off of that.
That's great, Carol. And you mentioned about this last individual that probably has some emotional and mental, and we all do, right? We all have our I use this term because I've heard it used in like the Network 21 audios from Jim Dornan himself. He says we all have baggage, right? We all come in with our we came out of the womb, and then life hit us, and sometimes in different directions. And the point is that we all have baggage, and for some of us it's resulted in this outcome. For others it's this other outcome, and for some that outcome has meant 300 pounds of extra weight. And the point being is that it's a multi-pronged approach. It is, yes, the physical aspects of, like you're saying, Carol, the eating and so forth, but like you're also saying, it's not just that, right? Along with that is the mental changes, the emotional changes, the community. And then you alluded to some of the content that we have and the intensive in the Network 21 program. And I'm thinking of one piece of content. In fact, I think you commented on it the other day, Carol, was the healthy panel, the healthy, my gosh, I mean, that one, there's one individual in there that addresses, not deeply because it's a panel, they're going from one person to the next, they're handing the microphone, but she was very transparent about her mental, emotional issues. She didn't go into the specific of what it was. I think most of us that have been associated with HealthPointe for some time recognize her as someone that I want to say, they do things in kgs there with Australia. So I want to say she's in the pounds equivalent, in excess of 100 pounds down. Okay. But she addressed a couple of times when the microphone was handed to her about working on the emotional aspects and how wonderful this community was, how essential it was that she listened to the audios and started diluting that, what's in her mind, in her spirit, and just putting the good in every day, putting the good in. And yeah, we've got that, and we're going to have it even more and more and more is what it's looking like. And we're all very excited about that for sure.
Yeah,
so,
I think it's something that's is unfolding. It will continue to unfold. And we as a community, our own personal community that we're with, we will, it might not be an overnight complete change, but I think what we'll do is what we're doing now, I think we're definitely on the right track. And what we'll do is just take it gradually and continually to a higher level, and we'll learn along the way. But we have so much that will be available for us. And it's so right, but we have so much now. If we took just what we have now and we reached out to more and more people, and not only reached out to them, but I mean, you're going to talk about an island on Monday night, but no man is an island. And many people will say, well, I'm trying losing weight and I can't do it by myself. They'll finally come to that conclusion after 50,000 diets that they've been on. And they realize that they need a supportive community. And that is one thing we provide. And we might tweak it and update it and, do a few things here and there. But the bottom line is we've got the core to work with. And now we'll just continue to take it up higher and higher and to a greater degree. So, yeah, I'm very excited about what's happening.
Yes, for sure. And isn't it exciting that we can know that we have all that we need right now, but yet we know that in a year, we'll probably, just knowing the nature of Network 21 as a training program and organization, will have this and better a year from now, and this and better 5 years from now. And it's exciting to know that we continue to stay relevant and leading, but yet we've got everything we need right now to be able to help more and more people. I wanted to ask, and again, if anybody else has any comments, questions, just jump in here. I'm not trying to hog the space here, but your opener had so many questions that came through for me. And I was curious on the growing the community, how it is either from a mindset standpoint and maybe even quote unquote technique standpoint that when you meet somebody and you have that conversation, what's kind of in your mind as far as next steps to kind of get that traction going with them? I know on this program, we've heard from both you and more and equally fun, Eileen herself, who is an incredible story and an ever-growing story of the exact nature of this program. But it all started with that thin thread of a connection, and how in that case and again, this might be knee-jerk habit to you. To me, I was scribbling down a note and burning it into my memory as a technique. And that was, you not only made a connection with her, but then you gave her a simple suggestion, a simple next step. And that resonated with me. And that was that you said, when you get back in your car, can you send me a text message? Okay. Had you not done that, I wonder if Eileen and Bruce and their 75 pounds and 40 some pounds, and her mother and 35 pounds, and her other friend of 45 pounds, and everything that will be in 5 years. I wonder if that little kind of throwaway comment seemingly of, hey, here's my card. Can you send me a text when you get back in your car in the parking lot, or something like that? I'm not sure exactly if that's how you said that. But my question is, in expanding this community and not being a club, expanding, growing, we make those connections. A lot of times, many of us make those connections, and then we want to get that process started, that engagement. What are your thoughts on that? I'm curious.
Well, I think the first thing is you have to have somebody that's willing on the other hand. And I've seen far too many times where people have a tremendous need, but they're not willing. They're not willing to come forth. And so just a little tweak of the words that you just said is an attitudinal thing with people. Not you, with the general public, and with me too. It is, instead of, can you send me a text when you get to the car? I just gave her the card and said, text me as soon as you get in your car. It was not, can you? I just gave her the next step. Now, if she doesn't text me, there's no connection, but she's got my card. If she does text me, then I know that she's mentally frustrated with where she is and needs to reach out to somebody. So she's ready to reach out to somebody. And let me tell you something, I got a category of people that are not ready to reach out, and I have a category of people that are ready to reach out. I'm thinking of another gal that for years was not ready to reach out. and then became ready to reach out. And part of that is transparency. Part of that is willingness, to reach out. It was interesting. This is a Christian nature, but I was reading in one of my inspirational little magazines or whatever it was, maybe even an email, and it was a trapeze artist, and they were saying that the trapeze artist, the guy never goes and tries to grab. What he does is he reaches out and then you grab, but it has to reach out first. And there's many people that are extremely overweight, extremely depressed, but are so closed in that they will not reach out. And until they're willing to bring that barrier down some, a little at a time, it's a trust thing too. Until they're ready to reach out, then you can't help them. But so what you do is you just put it out there. Your job is to put it out there, and their job is when they're ready to say, yes, I'm ready now. And so sometimes, that's a big thing right there. And then I think another thing is to ask them a lot of questions. And in asking them questions in a sit down experience, whether it be on, it is best live if possible, because you're creating a relationship. Relationships is another thing that's extremely important in this business, in this HealthPointe business, is when their barriers are down and the relationship is built, then you can help them, and then they're willing. And that comes with just questions about what's on their heart. So they know that you have an interest in them. You're not trying to sell them a HealthPointe program, for crying out loud. That's ridiculous. Why would you want to do that? What you're trying to do is reach out to them and help them understand that there is help out there if they're willing. So it's more attitudinal than what you say. It's more questions and getting feedback from them.
No, I love it. Right from the get-go, where you said that you gave a specific next step, and it's saying text me, not can you text me, and then making it clear. That's a big thing. I think sometimes, probably all of us are guilty of this. I'll just speak for myself. Is we can get, I don't want to say mealy mouth, but we talk in such generalities that person may be very, very ready, but we never told them, gosh darn it, what to do. Like, text me, and they're like, and they might be as self-conscious as we are, like, I don't know, I want to text this person, but they didn't tell me to text, should I not, or whatever. So I think being clear, I was listening to something the other day, kind of a different context, but the point will still be there. They were talking about website design. Again, clearly a different topic, but this person can glance at a website and tell whether it needs to be redesigned. And one of them is, he will, using AI, he will change a website to a different language and say visually, do I know what I'm supposed to do on this site? Let's say it's in Swahili, so you can't read it. Is the green button clear, that, and obvious? Is it very obvious what I'm supposed to do when I'm on this site? If it's not, then this site needs to be redesigned. And I think a lot of us would do well to adopt that same mindset with our own, human website, our own presence. Does this person know what we are expecting them to, what we're asking them to do? Now, like you said, whether they're ready to take action on that, that's another part of that equation. But let's make it clear that we would love them to text us. That's what would be the great next step. And I think sometimes just being clear on that. So I love that part. I love the trapeze part. And, they've got to reach out and grab on. We talked, there's a science behind this. It's called the trans-theoretical model of change. And there's a point in time when somebody is ready to take action. Now, the tricky thing is if they're not ready, what then? And my take on that, and again, just the science of it and just the way we roll, is that we still can keep in touch, right?
That's right.
we just maintain that relationship. It could be 2 days, 2 months, 2 years before they're ready. But if we haven't, occasionally sent them a text or reached out and said, hey, I'm here, and just made a, a genuine relationship. If you like them. Now, if you don't like the person, don't do that. But if you like them and they're cool and you enjoy their company, then, but they're just not ready to take the first step of correcting, some things with their health, then just maintain the relationship.
Well, and I've got another situation right there. I'm thinking of these people as you're speaking, but there's a beautiful lady that I spoke to a few months ago, and definitely wants to lose some weight, and wants also to be able to reach out and pay it forward through our coaching program to other people as she does lose weight. Originally, the approach was because she was in the health arena. She's working for a chiropractor that she could probably help people on a natural health basis, because our little conversation when we met was on natural health and healthy lifestyle and what have you. And so when I sat down in those terms, but it was pretty obvious when I sat down that I didn't notice as much when I first met her, was that she definitely had some weight to lose. And she was very open about it. So we had a very, very nice, open conversation, and she was very open about it. And then life hit and different, COVID. And I think she got COVID is what it was. And this is not that long ago. Anyway, so now she's busy, so she's not ready. So every once in a while, I'll just send her a little invite, or I'll send her a little audio or something, and just say, hey, I was thinking of you. Hope everything's going well. You got my number anytime you'd like to learn more, or take the next step or whatever. I don't know how I said it. But again, it's keeping in front of people. And it's the old, I think it was Zig Ziglar that said, find a need and fill it. And that's really all this is. And sometimes when we're, like you said, the next step when we're sitting down is, what is the need? Before we get into a major explanation of what our program is, because they just might see it as another diet. But what is their need? And once we find out what their need is, and, what would their perfect situation be like, health-wise or situation-wise, then we find out what's important to them. And what I learned later from one of my clients was, I'm so frustrated with the way that I look, that I was contemplating antidepressant drugs. And so as the relationship went on, she shared these things. And so these are the kinds of things that happen. But, the relationship is not created the first go around. It's the start. And like you'll say Eileen, because Eileen's been very transparent with us, and she's been a beautiful, beautiful help to all of us just from her transparency. And when I sat down with her, and her husband was sitting across the table with his arms folded, well, there's a big sign right there, body language, tight as a kite, and I knew it wasn't going anywhere. And so we went over some things. Well, I couldn't do that. I couldn't do this. I hate lettuce, and I like cereal for breakfast, and, all those kinds of things. So unwillingness to change. And it happened. She was going on a trip. I said, listen, go on your trip. Enjoy yourself, wear those clothes you bought, that are 3 sizes larger than you want them to be. I didn't say that, but, and just enjoy yourself, and let's get back together when you get home. Well, in the meantime, during the trip, she put on more weight, came back, and then, and she did not reach out to me. It was quiet. And so I just sent her a little text. I said, hey, are you back from Italy? I'd love to hear about your trip. And she said, oh yeah, and I'm ready. And then we sat down, and there was never a question, never debate after that about what she needed to do. And as we've all said, she is a picture perfect, not picture perfect that she's never put weight back on and taken it off, a few pounds, not huge. Never that she's not stumbled, what have you, but always that she didn't question the program. She just gave herself a kick in the butt and said, I'm going to better tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
But that's
Mm-hmm.
readiness. That she wasn't ready. She wasn't ready before the trip. And you can't
Yeah.
make them ready.
And I love that, to hear that little part where you actually reached out to her and said, "Hey, how was your trip? Love to hear about Italy." See, I didn't realize that part, and having heard the story and so forth, that is key. And again, because I love that, because for, among other things, it was kind of in your control, meaning you weren't waiting, you didn't know she was going to Italy and kind of copped an attitude and said, well, when she's ready, she'll reach out to me. You had the strength of, number one, conviction, also your own self-confidence that, she could say, yeah, I had a great trip in Italy and leave me alone. Okay, that's always an option, right? But
Yeah.
you had that self-confidence and the relationship to be able to reach out to her, and the rest is history. And had you not reached out to her and said, hey, I'd love to hear about your trip to Italy, maybe we would not have that story.
That's
So
right.
David, I see you're unmuted and sporting the Detroit Tigers. Good morning.
I just, in listening to Carol, what I'm thinking of is, with my teaching background, is the student going up to the teacher's desk for help or just in a conversation, and then as you're getting ready to leave, the teacher gives you a direction. And that's sort of, we've been programmed after 18 years of education that when a teacher or somebody of authority tells us to do something, to follow that step. And so when she said, text me when you get in your car, and if you do it with concern and a little bit of authority, like I can help you, it has that tone of a teacher. And there's part of us, I think, that's been put into us after the 18 years of educational systems to respond with, oh, I got to do that. Just a thought.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, I think that's a great point. And yeah, just a great point. And it just keeps hitting me, from David, what you're saying, and Carol, that we want we don't want to be so careful that, we want to have a certain amount of authority. I think there's a term that you use, David. And look, if that person is ready, it is so important that they see you as somebody that knows that you can come alongside them, right?
The other word I used was concern.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
I concern for you, and that my authority is that I think I can help you. Text you when you get in your car. So it isn't just authority; it's a confidence,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yes. That's a better term. Yes. A confidence.
Eric,
Yes, Hank.
I'd like to pitch in here because, I was at the same meeting where Carol was, where she met this guy on the Ozempic stuff. And the guy that was running the meeting has quite a gut on him. Okay, stands out. I got chatting with him. I didn't bring that point up. I says, so his name is Mike. I says, Mike, so what do you do? He said, I'm a mortgage broker. I said, oh, you work for a company? Or no, I'm an independent. Well, quickly, my mindset, an independent mortgage broker, he's got to be searching constantly for people. All right. And I said, so is that all you do? He says, no, I have a side business. That picked up a flag for me. He says, this guy is an entrepreneurial person. I said, Mike, I'd like to send you a short 3.5-minute video. Watch it. And then I'd like to get your feedback. I sent him the Why Not video. It has nothing to do with HealthPointe or weight. It's about making some more money. Okay? Because he already said he had a side business besides the mortgage business. And he watched it. Because you can go on Network 21, you can tell when the person watched it or not. He watched it. So then after he watched it, the next day I called him. I said, Mike, I noticed to watch that video. Did it generate any interest with you? He says, yeah, it was very interesting. And it's all he said. I said, you know what? Why don't you and I have breakfast? What's a good day for you to have breakfast? Because he's busy running here, running there. He said, next Thursday is a good day. So this coming Thursday, he and I are meeting for breakfast. And I'm just going to listen, mostly listen, get him talking, okay? And eventually, maybe he's not interested in making more money, but that video got his attention long enough to want to sit down. And then I'm going to straight out say, can I ask you a personal question, Mike? You know, I want to get his okay. He says, sure, go ahead. I said, I'm concerned, and Dave just brought up that word, concerned. I'm concerned because I had a situation like I see here, you might be battling a little bit of a visceral fat, I call it, for men, which is dangerous, right? I said, I've been there. I had a 25 pounds I gained when I was working as an engineer. And I'll explain that because I've gone through it. And I battled it and so on and so forth. And see where it goes from there. It started with that why not video. It has nothing to do with HealthPointe, but enough to make a connection to want to sit down. I know this making sense to some of you, but what I'm saying is that think and listen to what they're saying and review the situation. Then again, the question I'm going to ask, may I ask you a personal question? And take it from there. He says, sure, because then he's giving me the okay to ask him about, are you concerned about your overall health as far as carrying the extra weight? And see where it goes. So I hope that makes sense to you. And again, you never know where this conversation is going to go until you really sit down. But it was enough to make a connection with the why not video. The 3.5 minute video. I told him it's a very short 3.5 minute video. Watch it. Then we'll get your input. That's how it all started. Okay. And I know he's got other things going, but it's okay. We'll find out. But it's about
many times in that sitting down process too, he'll bring up health. I mean, if you're talking about a health related business, many times they'll bring it up, and then the topic will start to lead over to health, and then they will share without oh yeah, I wanted to lose a few pounds, but blah blah blah, or whatever they say. But it starts the topic, so it's a thread that leads over then into health. That they kind of, the best thing to do is if you can ask questions where they bring it up, then you got more vulnerability there too. Yeah. So
you got to know when they've got that gut sticking way out there, and he does. It's giving him some issues. There's no doubt about it. But let them bring it out, okay? Just by asking questions. So I hope that helps, guys. Anything to make that connection, to get the person to sit down and talk. And then ask the question, can I ask you a personal question? That's all. And then get them talking. I hope that helps.
That's very, very helpful. I love the specific steps, and I can just visualize, the path of everything from the connection in the meeting to the conversation to the video to the phone call to the and then the rest of the story. We'll see how that, we all know it can go in a variety of directions. So hopefully you'll circle back to us, Hank, on the rest of the story, like Paul Harvey. So, well, hey guys, I'm going to throw the eyewear back on because we are, again, Emily and I are en route to the Outer Banks, and I thought it would be fun. I want to say I covered this topic. It might have been the last time we went to the Outer Banks, but it's a relevant topic, and we hear it talked about from time to time, and that is, how to handle things when you travel, how to handle things when you're on the road. What are some, what are some things, some best practices if you're in HealthPointe and so forth. And again, for Emily and I, like many on this program, we're not in an active 6-week cycle. We've done our 6-week cycles, we've reached our optimal goal, and we are in lifetime maintenance, which means the aperture opens up in terms of your choices, in terms of food categories that you might partake in. And that's all a wonderful place to be. And anybody that's in an active 6-week cycle or cycles, just know that that's your goal, because it's a wonderful place. But that said, we are lifetime maintenance. This is how we live. We live a healthy lifestyle. We live the HealthPointe lifestyle. And so when it comes to, in our case, traveling from Michigan to the Outer Banks, and for those that aren't familiar with the Outer Banks, let me just say we'll call it an island off the coast of North Carolina. And it's a very windy place, and we go there with a bunch of friends, and we go there for vacationing, but basically kiteboarding is a big thing in the Outer Banks. And I was talking with some other folks in the preamble before we started here that it's actually the spot that the Wright brothers, that did all their testing for flying. And there's a reason for that. When they were from Ohio, when they were looking for a place to do their testing for flights, one of the windiest places in the United States, most consistent wind, is the Outer Banks. So we're on a route from Michigan to there, and we overnight. We're here in Virginia, and then we'll head on. But my point is what did we eat? What were our options and stuff like that? I'm actually going to do a screen share here, just on my device here, just be a little janky. And I want to share. I thought it would be fun to take these pictures yesterday as we experienced it. So we're going through Ohio and through Pennsylvania, and there's this point. It's called Breezeway, Pennsylvania, where you're on the turnpike and you're heading east, and then it kind of takes this big loopy turn, and then it kind of kicks a little southeast, which is the direction that we want to go. But it's at that this loopy turn where it brings you through Breezeway, Pennsylvania, which is everybody stops there. Trucks stop there. It's like a truck stop and everything. And we take one of our breaks there. And we went inside to just kind of stretch our legs and use the restroom and so forth. And there's a store inside there, and it says, well, I'll show you the picture of it. It says something like healthy choices. And I want to linger on that because I want to share what we did in terms of our choices and our planning and our mindset, as we travel. And we've heard some wonderful things from others, like I think Eileen has done a really great segment on this when her and Bruce are traveling. But I want to kind of compare and contrast, like if you don't have a little bit of planning, if you don't have a little bit of methodology, what you can succumb to. And what I want to show you first here is at that, we'll call it a truck stop. I call it a truck stop, this big station in Breezeway, Pennsylvania. Lo and behold, yes, they had the fast food, the donuts, the Dunkin' Donuts, everything like that in there. But they had this place called Healthy Choices. So doesn't that sound great? Healthy Choices. So let me show you some healthy choices. This is all going to be very, 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 you guys are going to be so glad that you found these healthy choices. Let me do a screen share here. Give me one moment here. Okay. Okay, here we go. Let's get into some healthy choice. Doesn't that look good? I mean, isn't that, oh, look at that. It says healthy, not only healthy, but it says fresh and healthy. Now, I mean, come on, guys, we're in HealthPointe. Can you get any better than this? It says fresh and healthy. And it's not in the image, but if I was to look over to the left, you would see all the unhealthy stuff. You would see the donuts and yes, there was a very long line of people, I have to say, over there. But for those that want to be healthy, look, here is this beautiful island that says fresh and healthy. That is food marketing at its best, because let me show you what their fresh and healthy is. Okay, here's one of the items on that fresh and healthy. And oh, doesn't that look good? Okay, well, it's it kind of looks like a little parfait, but I mean, come on now. It says fresh and healthy, and it's like this green. I mean, green is a good, healthy color, so it's got to be good. Uh-oh, look at that ingredient list. Can anybody read all of that?
My gosh. Holy cats.
Okay, but guys, this is fresh and healthy. They're telling us it's fresh and healthy. Come on, it's got to be. But for those of us that are a little educated, we turn it around. We look at the food label. Then now we don't know how to pronounce all this, but let me just zoom in on one that might catch your eyes. And actually, it's been in the news recently. Fortunately, positive about the dyes that they're starting to outlaw in the foods. Maybe some of you have caught that. We're finally catching up with the rest of the world. But do you see where it says yellow? And I know that some of you can't look at this. You might not be able to see this, but right in there it says yellow 5 and yellow 6. Well, doesn't that sound yummy? Doesn't that sound fresh and healthy? Yellow 5 and yellow 6. I guess that's what makes this look yellow like that. But it's food dyes, guys. Okay, so all right, but it says fresh and healthy. Come on now, it's got to be pretty good. Maybe all right, we'll give that a hall pass. Let's look at the carbohydrates. Before I show you this, if I was to ask you how many carbs, because that's part of HealthPointe, right? We watch what our net carbs are per day, particularly if you're in a 6-week active cycle, particularly if you're in the 4 weeks of your 6-week cycle. Well, come on, it says fresh and healthy. Can't be that bad. 81 grams of carbs.
Oh,
What? Sugars, 47 grams of sugars. Oh my goodness. Protein, 0 grams.
Oh.
Zero grams of protein. But wait a second. It says fresh and healthy. Don't forget, it says fresh and healthy. So I guess the extent of that fresh and healthy is just a sign, because nothing beyond that sign, whether it's the yellow dye, 5 or yellow dye 6, or the 81 grams of carbohydrates, the 47 grams of sugar, and the 0 grams of protein is healthy. I will say this. I'm obviously having some fun, being lighthearted and comical about this, but there was some options. Actually, I only found one option. I'll show you what it was. And that is, they did have boiled eggs there. Okay, so if you did want to get some boiled eggs, they had that as an option, and that's pretty good. But right away from the boiled eggs, and at this point, Emily's like, "Come on, Eric, we got to get out of here," because I'm taking pictures of all this stuff. Our wonderful Lunchables, but this is in fresh and healthy. Let's take a look at our wonderful Lunchables. 35 grams of carbohydrates and 21 grams of sugars. Okay, so anyhow, so what do we do? And this is just a very transparent look at things. I'll come back to this image in a second. This is the cooler that we pack. Okay, this is actually the cooler. It's actually sitting right next to me here in the hotel room. Very easy. Just pack that with our choices. And then when we got to the hotel, we grabbed some of that, and this stuff is going to travel with us to when we arrive at our destination in the Outer Banks. So we brought more than we normally would, but you can see kind of the Ziploc bags of some greens in there. You can see Emily's protein shake in there. You can see a couple of excess energy drinks, lots of B vitamins there. And then, obviously we could buy eggs. In fact, we discussed it. There's grocery stores in the Outer Banks, but we love our eggs that we get from a friend of ours that has chickens. For one thing, they're cheaper. I think we pay like $5 a dozen instead of the 8 or 10 or 12 or whatever it is in the store. But more importantly, they're really, really good yolks. You can see some carrots in there and some cheese and stuff. And so that's just sitting in the little hotel refrigerator, and we'll throw that back into the cooler as we hit the road today. And when we were on the road, we're stopping. The Ohio Turnpike has these wonderful rest stops, and in the old days, we would stop there and eat whatever they had there. We'd stop at these wonderful rest stops. They really are wonderful, but the food choices in there are typical fast food, or you're really struggling to get anything healthy. And now we just take this bowl along, and that's what you're seeing here. I mean, I'm just being very real here. This isn't anything fancy. you know, this is the glass bowl that Emily got for me, and we use it collectively. I used to have a plastic bowl. Then we learned about all the plastics that you consume. So it's a beautiful glass bowl, and we just bring it right into the hotel room and just wash it up in the sink, and it's good to go. And you can see we've got some utensils there. We've got our wonderful shears, our our culinary products there, our wonderful shears, and there's a fork and stuff like that. We just wash it up and just put it back in your bag and hit the road. So anyhow, I thought that would be fun to kind of go through some of those real images there. This was Breezeway, Pennsylvania, and our choices of fresh and healthy station, or to have our own planning and a little bit of prep to go on the road with. Okay, let me get out of this screen share here, and we'll wrap up our program here. But so what does that take to do that? Really nothing much, just a little bit of thinking, a little bit of a mindset. And again, people have covered this way better than me. We've heard from Eileen and Bruce a number of times about when they're on the road, how they pack and prepare for that. But it really is simple, but it does take just a little bit of thought. Took a little bit of thought when we arrived here, how we were going to get some steps in. We did some extra walking last night. Obviously, we'd been in the car for 12 hours, so we're looking forward to that. And then, a little yoga mat here to do some stretches and stuff like that. So this doesn't take a lot, but just a little bit of planning for the food. If you don't plan, the good news is if you find yourself in Breezeway, Pennsylvania, you've got fresh and healthy choices, apparently. Okay. Anybody have any extra comments on that? Yes.
Hey,
yes,
Eric.
Pam.
Just checking. So I see all of the lettuce and everything. So do you bring, is that bowl for you guys having a salad and putting your protein or eggs in the salad and eating it that way? Or do you just nibble it like by hand with your protein stuff? How do you work that out?
Yeah, I love the question. So the bowl is for a salad to chop it up. So we just put the greens in there. I'll tell you a funny thing about the carrots in a second, and I think Emily is on the call. She'll get a kick out of this too, or kill me. We'll see which she does. But so yeah, we just drop the lettuce in there, drop the shredded carrots in there, and then I take our kitchen shears and I just chop it up with the scissors, because just so that the leaves aren't so big. And
right.
Yep. Then we just peel the eggs, put them in there. In my case, I put some cheese in there. I also love sunflower seeds. I put those in there. And then for dressing, I just simply use olive oil and some salt. Again, if you're in an active 4-week part of a 6-week cycle. The other thing is an avocado. I put a whole avocado in there. If I'm at home, I do a half an avocado, but I just didn't want to store the other half. And we brought a number of avocados with us, so I just put the whole avocado in there. So lettuce, carrots, some cheese, the eggs for the protein, some sunflower seeds, and the avocado, and then the olive oil and the salt. And then we just had an apple for the piece of fruit. Again, this is lifetime maintenance mode, not 6-week cycle mode. So a little bit more dense on some of the products in there. But to answer your question, Pam, that bowl is for fixing that salad. Now, I will tell you that later, after we left Breezeway, we're heading, and we're not far from Richmond. We were probably about an hour out. And I was like, hey, Emily, what are you thinking as far as dinner? Do we want to stop someplace? And I told her, I said, she says, well, what are you kind of thinking? And I said, she wasn't too hungry. I said, I just kind of have a feeling, a desire for like a steak. That's where I was at on that. And so we were considering that, but really we just mostly because of timing factors and I said, you know what? I'm just good with, let's just reach back into that cooler and let's just have some things out of there. So in that case, we didn't fix a salad. We just stayed on the road. We didn't have to stop. We didn't have to spend the money. We just had some more boiled eggs, some more cheese, We had some carrot sticks and celery, and we had some macadamia nuts. And I think that was it. And that was a really nice light dinner. So did that help, Pam?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
I always do sandwiches with lettuce wraps and that kind of stuff, but never really thought to bring a bowl and this to cut up the salad, but that was a good idea.
Yeah. That bowl, when we're not traveling, that I'm often on the road just, for business and stuff like that throughout the day. I have a little soft shell cooler that Emily got me, and she got me that bowl. That bowl is with me every day. That is my, like literally 99% of my lunches are in my vehicle, parked in a parking lot somewhere, and doing that same thing that I kind of described to you, Pam, in that bowl. And so it saves a lot of money too, instead of eating places. But real fun thing on the prepping, you guys might get a kick out of this as we close out the program here. But full transparency, so as we're packing from the house, we're grabbing stuff out of the refrigerator. Explain to your wife that that bag that has the shredded carrots in it is not sealed shut, because I'll tell you what happened. We're in the Ohio turnpike, and we're parked, but she is kind of like reaching into the back seat, pulling stuff out of the cooler, right? And I'm in the front seat, and I got the bowl, I'm ready. And here comes the lettuce, great. I put the lettuce in there. Here comes the eggs, great. I got that. Here comes the carrots. Those carrots come raining in on me. So she had grabbed the bag, and it's hard to reach into the back seat, right? She grabbed the bag of carrots, which you would think would be a sealed shut. It's a reasonable thing to think, but her silly husband did not put a rubber band or anything like that, just kind of rolled up the bag and put it in the cooler, I guess. She grabbed onto this thing. It happened to be upside down. And so as she swung her arm around into the front seat to hand it to me, I've got like shredded carrot in my hair. And it's down along the seat. It's all over the place. So just know that this is never a perfect scenario. It's never a perfect world. You just laugh about it, have fun, and stay healthy. So it was kind of a moment there that we had with the shredded carrots. I will say that. So anyhow, guys, unless there's anything else, any quick comments or anything, I think we're going to kind of wrap this. Going once, going twice. Okay, guys. Well, it's been another wonderful Saturday together. Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Carol, so much for your commentary, all your wonderful stuff that you contributed here. Hank, you as well, and everybody that contributed. Pam, great to hear from you. And David, everyone, if I missed anyone, thank you, everyone. We'll see you next Saturday, same time, same place. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Have fun.
Eric.
Be safe.
Yeah, safe travels, Eric and Emily. Have a
Seal-
great week,
seal that
everybody.
carrot bag.